Wonderful. Thank you, Shauna. And thank you and welcome to everyone who has joined us this evening on our webinar as part of our series From Employed to Empowered. Clearly, you had an invitation and a registration to meet with Jim Harris, which I'm not, but I do have the absolute pleasure of introducing our speaker for this evening, our guest, which is Alex Broadley. I've had the pleasure of working with Alex. Hi, Alex. For the last 2.5 years. And yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. We are recording the session, so anybody who is going to be attending tonight, you'll be able to watch this back. It will be sent to you as a recorded link. So let's get started, shall we? I'm going to go over the agenda just to give everyone an idea about what we're going to be covering in this session. And we will promise to try and keep to the 30 minutes as closely as we can, but that all depends on how good your questions are. So we are going to meet with Alex Broadley. He's one of our top performers from the Property Experts. Sorry, I didn't introduce myself. I'm the Training and Development Director of the Property Experts, stepping in for Jim. So we're going to really delve into Alex's journey. And the question is obviously from employed to empowered, but for Alex specifically, 20 years worth of employment into then self-employment. So it's going to be really interesting to get to know Alex's journey from that piece. Understand a little bit more about how Alex works in terms of strategy and mindset, and get some really good golden nuggets for what really works for Alex and for what's helped him along with his success. And then a little bit about how the right support can make a difference. Obviously, being part of the network, Alex. And in terms of that support, how have you utilised that? We'll also have about 5 minutes worth of final thoughts, but we'll have some time for questions. So really important, guys, if you're going to be listening in, please feel free to type in some questions and we'll come to those in around about 25 minutes. So without further ado, Jim Harris's favourite phrase, I'm going to utilise that for tonight. I'm going to hand over to Alex, but just a final piece from me, and understanding that Alex has been within this industry for 20 years. He prides himself on fantastic service for his customers, the relationships that he builds, and we've had many a conversation around how we raise the standards in a state agency, haven't we, Alex? But having known each other for 2.5 years, I'm going to hand over to you just so that you can go over that summary of your journey from being employed into self-employed. Over to you, mate.
Thank you, Kelly. So hi everyone, I'm Alex. So I've been in the industry for about 22 years now. I've lost count, if I'm honest, around 20 to 22 years. I've been employed for basically 20 of them, and it's something that I fell into a very, literally by accident. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I left school and my mum said, why don't you become a travel agent? Why don't you sell holidays? Think about all the travel and all the benefits you'll get. So I applied for travel agent jobs, but I ended up applying for estate agent jobs, and I went in for an interview thinking I was going to be selling selling holidays, and it was selling houses. So I got the job, and the rest is history, basically. So it was quite an accidental career move, but it's been 20 very, very happy years. It's an industry that I absolutely love. I've seen it change quite a bit during that time, and yeah, I mean that's pretty much my journey up until 2.5 years ago.
Fantastic. And making that decision, Alex, how, where did that come from? Why did you make the decision to go it alone?
I think financial freedom, also just the freedom to manage my own diary and do what I want to do in life. And I had a set of goals, and I had things that I wanted to do, and I just looked at my wage increase during that 20 years, and I just thought, well, I could be working another 20 years and get the same wage increase, and I still won't be able to do what I wanted to do. And and I looked at all the people within the industry around me, and there was lots of money being made, and there was a lot of self-doubt, of course. But I think the mortgage industry was one of the first where the best in the business started going self-employed, and I just thought, well, if that was really that really resonated with me. It was the first kind of office-based job where people, in my opinion, where people started en masse going self-employed. because it was always kind of plumbers or electricians or builders, and that was the first kind of suit tie job where people were going self-employed. And I thought, okay, well, there's got to be something in this when it comes to estate agents as well. And there was a few models at the time, and I knew a few estate agents work with the industry, and people that I trained, actually, people that were apprentices when I was working as a high street estate agent, that had monstrous amounts of money saved in the bank. And I was their mentor. I was the one that coached them, and they just had the bottle, I guess, and the guts to do it themselves and go self-employed far before I did. But I also quite fortunate to have a really strong friendship circle, and a lot of those within it are self-employed within various different industries. And I just kind of got bullied at one point. I just got bullied into doing it, and I just thought, well, I've just got to do it. I owe it to myself. I'm very good at what I do. I became the leading estate. I took the company I was working for, managing. I took them out of their traditional marketplace, which is kind of two down terraces, into a completely different marketplace, and I made a massive success of that. And it was almost that was the proof. That was the proof that I needed. To be fair to them, they gave me flexibility to do what I wanted to do with their business, and I proved to myself that it was doable. And and I looked at what they provided me in order to do that, and it was very little. It was all me, really.
Wow. And I'm just going to pinpoint the sentence that you said there, everything about their business and what you could do for their business.
Yeah,
And I think that's one of the real prominent things when you're working the way that you can do in a state agency. And I think a lot of people can empathize with this, is putting that money in somebody else's pocket
yeah.
before putting it into yours. So,
Well, this
yeah.
this is it. And one of the phrases that a friend of mine used continuously, and it's not a phrase, but it's a very good point of view. He asked me why I was still employed, and I said, well, it's a safety net. I know how much I'm going to get paid, and I know what's going to come in, and I know what's going to go out, and I'm very comfortable with that. And I've got a safety net. And he said, okay, well, if you stopped selling houses, as in like you had a bit of a dry spell, you stopped listing houses, you stopped selling houses for a month, what would happen? Well, I'd probably get a little bit of a telling off. Okay, what if it was 2 months? Well, they really won't be happy. What if it was 6? I said, well, I'll probably lose my job. And he said, okay, well, if you're going to have to sell to keep your job, you may as well sell to keep everything. And I thought,
Wow.
well, you can't argue. He said, I was like, yeah, but no, you're right. So, yeah.
No, I think that's quite a sobering thought, isn't it, when you're
Mm,
thinking about how these decisions come about. So, and it is sort of like a deal breaker moment, isn't it?
yeah.
And if you could go back 2.5 years in those moments or in those few months, what do you think you would maybe tell yourself, or would you change anything, do you think?
What, as in going Oh, I've done it earlier.
Yeah, you'd have done
I
it
would do,
earlier.
I'd done it, yeah. I'd have done it a lot earlier. But everything happens for a reason, really. And I was in the right place at that moment in time, and I think it was meant to be. But yeah, it would have been nice to do it earlier. But no, I mean, handing in my notice was a very, very terrifying day, and going self-employed was a huge decision, and it was probably, I think it was I think it's the biggest decision I've ever made in my life, and it was certainly the scariest decision ever made in my life. I was a very, very good employee. I'm not good at a lot of things. I played badminton, I lose, but I am a good estate agent, and that self-doubt, you just got to eradicate that, and just nothing changed. I finished my gardening leave, and then the day after that, I just did what I was doing before, but with a lot more support, a lot more insights and a lot more training, and I thought I knew it all, and I literally picked up where I left off, but with a whole load more training and knowledge. So it was great.
That is really, really good to hear. And actually, I do remember those days as well. So I remember those days for you. But I can also empathize, those feelings of going from employed to self-employed, the day you actually make the decision, the day you deliver that message to your boss. And if you've been
Mm.
quite a loyal, a loyal person, I think it's a hard decision to make, but it sounds like it was the right one for you. So
Yeah,
pleased.
yeah, and I get it. It's not for everybody, but I just loyalty, it doesn't really, it never really got me anywhere, and I think a lot of people take advantage of loyalty. And I know a lot of people within the industry that are employed, but they would treat them as stepping stones. If another employee came along, 6 months down the line that's prepared to offer them 5 grand more, then they'll take it. Then if they were there 2 or 3 months, and someone else prepared to offer them another 5k more, they'll take it. And it was literally just stepping stones. And they were still employed estate agents, earning far more than me, being loyal to a company for several years. And I just thought, well, I just lost all confidence in it, really.
Wow. And moving into obviously this new mindset, like you said, the training, the support, the tools and
Mm.
everything was there, but actually it's changing your mindset into this entrepreneur framing, I suppose, isn't it? And how that makes you set your own goals. You mentioned goals and targets before. So, I mean, how do you structure that then? How do you drive your monthly own personal goals and targets in an entrepreneur's sort of mindset now?
Um, well, I was always for me, I know what I need to come in each month, really. So I concentrate on that minimum number to start off with. Okay, and once if I get 3 or 4 exchanges within the first kind of, well, or 2 or 3 exchanges within the first kind of couple of weeks, okay, great. Well, that's it. That's set. That's done. That's what I need now. So I always set out to kind of cover those costs,
Yeah.
um, and then and then push out from there. Really makes sense.
Brilliant. No, and you set a good first year making those standards happen.
Yeah.
And you went from strength to strength, obviously being one of our experts who have now got to the point of achieving figures that are probably maybe back then you wouldn't have even dreamt of. And so sort of thinking that it's possible to do that. But
Yeah.
explain a little bit more around that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think like everyone that takes a bit of a leap of faith, they always say to themselves, "Oh, I was the same. If I can just do what I did, from a money perspective, from when I was employed, then great, because I'm getting the same amount of money, but I'm doing it for myself, and I've got no one to answer to, and I can go on holiday when I want, I can take the day off, or whatever." Um, so yeah, it's but then I remember having a conversation with Sean, and Sean asked me what I wanted each month. If I could have a consistent amount each month, what would it look like? And I told him, and he said, "Oh, hmm, I'm a bit disappointed. I thought you were ambitious." And I was like, "That is ambitious. That's huge. That would be great. That would be life changing." And
Out of interest, Alex, what was that figure? 10,
10,000. Yeah,
10,000. Okay.
yeah, 10
Okay.
10,000 a month will be absolutely lovely.
Hmm.
And it didn't take long to surpass that, if I'm honest. And I don't always get. Sometimes I get a little bit less than that. Sometimes I get around that. Sometimes I get a lot more than that. It's the industry. It's nature of the beast. But yeah, I just had no idea that level of income was available to someone. Well, I had no idea that level of income was available to someone that didn't go that left school at 16. That it's more than a doctor, in some
Yeah, that's
instances,
incredible.
and that just baffled me. And that's why I was always really skeptical of that six-figure salary, and people, and you can earn this, and
Mm.
people saying to me, "This is what I earn," and not to impress me. And I was just like, well, no, something didn't feel right, and I think I was just convinced myself not to do it, really. But the truth is, that level of income is readily available.
Brilliant. It's really good to hear. And I know how hard you work for that as well. But in terms of, okay, so, the first 3 to 6 months of that business, because that's the, I suppose that's the sweaty beads on your head, sleepless nights kind of moments.
Yeah,
And, you've really, I mean, from the training, and what we try to implement as much as possible is you've got to get up, you've got to do the process. You've got to follow the
yeah,
process. You've got to do the training, you've got to do the things that we advise that you do, but you're there on your own. You're the one that's got to get yourself out of bed ready to go and do everything. So what did the first, if you can reflect back on those first 3 to 6 months and gaining those first listings and gaining that momentum, I
yeah.
mean, what did that look like, a day in the life of?
Well, I've always been really good at self-motivating, and I'm also a bit of a lone wolf. So I know a lot of people miss being in the office and miss, having chit chat and people around them. I don't really, and I'm quite lucky in that sense that I have got that get up and go. Um, but it was just a case of I just treated it. I really struggled to. It's not a bad thing either. I really struggled to break the habit of I'm not employed. Sorry, I felt like I was employed. Still, I kind of treated it like that. So if I was
Mm,
walking the dog and it got to 5 past 9, I'd be like, I've got to get back, I've got to get back, I've got to get back. I need to start work at 9. That's when I need to start work. That's what I've always done. And that's what I did. And looking back now, I don't think that is necessarily a bad thing because I held myself accountable. This is what I do. These are the hours that I work, and this is what I need. This is what I need to do in order to push forward. But my, I think this is the most important bit of advice that I can give during those crucial first couple of months is do what it takes to get that listing. Just do what it takes. Win the listing because if you've not got a property to sell, you're not having conversations with anyone. The moment you've got a property to sell, guess what? Your motivation has been boosted. Okay, your
mhm,
confidence is high. You've got a board outside, you've got content for social media, and you've got people calling you as opposed to you trying to find people to speak to. They're calling you, wanting to view the house, asking questions. These people are potential sellers. So you just need to, again, in my opinion, just do what you can to get those listings, whatever it takes at that crucial couple of months, because we've all had it within if people are. I'm just using a estate agent because that's all I've ever done. But even as an employed estate agent, if you've had a bit of a dry spell or an unlucky spell where you've gone out to a few valuations and you've lost them, it doesn't take long for negative thoughts to kind of come in and impact you, and you know
mm.
and I think that's magnified hugely when you haven't got a basic wage and you are self-employed. So I think while that confidence is high, while the excitement's there and the motivation is there, get the listings, do whatever it takes. And I got quite a few from door knocking at that time. I just thought, well, there's a board up outside. They've been on the market for over 3 months. I'm going to knock on the door and get chatting to people. And I picked up my conversion rate on door knocking was great. It's dropped off, but the initial it was great. I was like, wow, this is really good. And no one told me to get lost or anything. And I got a few listens off the back of it, and I got some boards up, and I had some professional photos, and I've got content now to share on social media, and people are calling me wanting to view properties, and I'm booking valuations off the back of it. So just dig deep and work hard. I was doing 10, 12-hour days during that time.
Yeah.
And there was no flexibility for me in that sense. I wasn't taking days off. I was thinking about it, and a Tony Robbins quote, where focus goes and energy flows. Well,
Mm.
my focus was on that entirely, and and there's another phrase: the harder you work, the luckier you get. And yeah, I was just thinking, I've just got to get listings, get listings, get listings, get listings.
Absolutely right. I mean, I love that phrase, do what it takes to get those first few listings in the first few months. But you did touch on one element, which I suppose is becoming an entrepreneur, being self-employed. You've got the freedom to do exactly what you want. But I always think it's not exactly what you want, it's what you need to do.
Mhm.
Because you're having that mentality of that 9 a.m. got to get to work, got to get these things done. I'm hoping by now, because I've seen the size of your dog, and you're saying that you and the dog walks at 5 past 9. I'm hoping he gets a few more longer walks a day because you
Yeah,
get a
I've
little
given
bit more
myself.
flexibility.
Yeah, I've been giving myself a bit of grace since then, but
Yeah.
by and large, I'm still working 8, 9 hour days.
Brilliant. Well, I mean, that's the thing, because I mean, we're moving on to you getting your position to where you are right now, which is becoming that top performer. And excuse me, sorry. And then moving forward from getting those first few listings, getting the momentum, which you've just very well reiterated how important that is. But in terms of that tipping point and becoming that sort of top performer level in terms of the amount of properties that you're listing and the money that you're invoicing, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning that the photo that's in this slide, because I was there with you. It was a pleasure to see the top performers actually on the Dubai trip. But what did that feel like to you? I mean, was there a transition from day to day, getting my money that I need for the month into the level of figures that you were talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's I never dreamed that I'd be there. Me and my wife were just recapping conversations prior to going self-employed, and I was looking at, okay, if I could do this, that would be great. And it's kind of you know without sounding crass, it's 3 or 4 times what I was what I thought I'd get, really, what I thought I'd be happy with, really. And yeah, so sorry, just repeat the question. Sorry.
No, no, no. It's good. It's just thinking about that, having the attitude around those figures, and
Yeah,
that transition from what an income monthly, which was okay, and then you're
yeah,
quadrupling that, and saying that you're sounding crass. You should just be absolutely proud of the hard work you grafted for that. You worked really hard for that, but to be able to get into that level of that income,
mhm,
and then becoming a top performer. I mean, what's it
yeah.
changed in your life? What's the impact that it's had?
It's massive. Yeah, it is massive, and it's nice to um again, without sounding crass, be able to go out within reason still to and do what I want, to a degree. And we've got the house that I didn't think we'd be able to buy. We're completing on that in a couple of weeks' time. And
Right.
um yeah, and just being able to not think about having to save, and
Mm.
just little things like that. You don't. I think money's not everything, but it does take a lot of pressure off things, really. And we're hoping to start a family, and yeah, and it just really, yeah. I just never thought I'd be in that position where I'm earning this kind of money. But on that, again, I think never get what's what I'm looking for. Um, I just think it can end at some point. So
Mm.
I never get blasé. Yeah. So never get blasé with money, really, because I've been in the position before where I've, you know, last year where I was extremely comfortable and I was oversubscribed and had people calling me, and I was being able to take the pick of what I want, what I wanted to list and what I didn't.
It's
And
amazing.
and then it went quiet, and then I was like, right,
Mm.
okay, well, and I know you can't be everywhere. And list everything. But I think it's really important to just not be blasé with money as well.
And that's absolutely fair to say, I think, because it can come as go as well as it comes. So
Yeah,
I think hearing that you've achieved what you've wanted to achieve, the house, the plans for your future is just absolutely fantastic. And like I said to you before, we've worked together now for like 2.5 years. We've gone, seeing you mentioned the sentiment being a lone wolf. But it's always nice to be able to see that kind of achievement, and then to actually see you be able to share those tips, and like I said, the golden nuggets, I suppose. But moving on to this, if you've got any tips or advice that maybe that you've learned in the last couple of years that you could pass on to somebody starting out today, what would you pass on to somebody to see where they could get to your position right now?
yeah. Well, I think social media is massive, and I get a lot of listings off the back of that. Not as good as some people within the network, but I get people contacting me through Facebook and social and Instagram, wanting to list a house with me. So I think that's massively important. But I think a strong brand, sorry, a strong self brand is key as well. So um, I continuously, probably 2 or 3 times a year, update my professional gallery for myself, really.
Mm.
So I think that's hugely important. It doesn't cost the earth. I think my photographer charged me 150 quid, and I can spend the day with her, and I take a couple of different outfits, and we go to different locations, and just have. So when if it is a little bit dry, and you haven't got much to share, I think having those professional images of you
Mm.
works really well. Flyering, and I never thought I'd say that in 2025. Flyering has been huge for me, and it's
Wow.
not just a case of getting 500 printed and just putting it through the doors and waiting for the phone to ring, and then getting a little bit disappointed because no one's contacted you. It is thousands, and again, it's not huge amounts of money, but honestly, printing flyers and targeted flyers for certain roads or certain
Yeah.
areas was massive for me. And I was pounding the pavement constantly with my mum helping and sometimes my wife and my friend, and we were covering a lot of ground. And I did it myself because one, it's great for fitness. Two,
Mhm.
you're bumping into people, especially in the warmer months as well, when they're washing the car in the driveway and you're getting chatting to people. If there's no one in
Mm.
the drive, people are seeing your face on the Ring doorbell. So that for me was huge. And it feels like you've done something. It feels like you've okay, the phone might not be ringing that early on in the process, but you've gone out and you've worked hard, you're tired, you feel like you've accomplished something. So
Yeah.
that was huge for me.
Honestly, I mean, Alex is saying that the mindset and the lessons that I've taken from this, it reiterates how passionate and how hard a lot of our experts work, and those that are outside of our network. People who are striving to achieve what you have. And I will repeat what I said in terms of your modesty kind of goes quite a long way. But I think most of the time, I think you should be very, very proud of what you've achieved. It's great that you're reiterating some of the process, the steps that reinforces what we train, which is always a nice thing to hear as well. So honestly, thank
Yeah.
you so much. Sorry, if you want to add anything else there,
Yeah, no,
Alex?
no, absolutely on that. It's from the property expert's perspective. There's so many different options out there, but this I just felt drawn to this one. It felt right for me, and the structure and the training, and it's not just your initial induction. It's continuously throughout the year, and I've had to I've had the pleasure of seeing people that that I'd never thought I'd see through the property experts. Like Tom Panos, he's absolutely huge, and some of the
Yeah.
and that was just laid on, and it was just like wow, this is incredible. He's like he's arguably one of the biggest names in the worldwide real estate industry, and just it's just continuous, and you're always learning something new. And I was very much of the opinion when I was an employed estate agent that I am top dog. I am no one can come close to me. But it was only actually when going self-employed that I realised that there's so much more to learn, and there's so many more tutors and teachers out there. And if it wasn't for the property experts, I wouldn't have had the pleasure of seeing them or
Wow.
learning from them.
What an amazing way to wrap up as well. Thank you so much. But you're absolutely right. I think all of us were quite starstruck. We've had some really big names, and I'm sure that there's more to come in the future as well.
Yeah,
Really looking forward to more events. Okay, so I think we have some questions. I've seen a few things pop up, Shauna. We've got a few minutes, haven't we? So do you
We
want to
do.
ask Alex those questions for me? That'd be great.
Fantastic. So the first question, so Alan has asked, how long did it take from day one start to first receipt of payment from the first property sale?
I think it was around about 2.5 to 3 months. Really, I was very fortunate. I got a listing pretty much immediately, or I think I got two or three pretty much immediately. In fact, I got the first listing before I was able to.
I do
Yeah,
remember that.
yeah, so I had to kind of keep them on ice a little bit until I was ready to launch. So I was quite fortunate in that sense.
Well
Fantastic.
done.
And then we have had another question, which is, oh, did you ask vendors for upfront payments towards marketing when you first started with the property experts?
Um, yes and no. Yeah, it's I treat I don't have one way of doing things really. I treat it on its own individual merit at the end of the day. And if a property that was um a sec again, if it's coming on a little bit more than what I wanted to put it on for, if they weren't, if they're taking 70% of advice and it's kind of bypassing the 30%, it's little things like that where you think, okay, well, I'm investing money into these people, so in that situation, I'd probably ask them to invest a little bit themselves. But by and large, you're going out there and these properties haven't sold. So when you're door knocking, for example, and you're targeting properties that have been on the market for several months, you, you can tell, you can look at it, and you can tell why it's not selling. So it could be poor photography, or it could be lack of a floor plan, or it could be lack of a video, or the price could be wrong. So in that sense, you really want to go out there and you really want to prove a point. So in fact, I can really improve on this marketing. I can right some wrongs. So in that situation, I did find myself paying more initially for it, but now there is some upfront payments from vendors a lot of the time. Yeah, so I hope that helps.
Yeah,
Rabbiting
no,
on.
well done.
Brilliant. And then the next question we've had is the fee that you charge now the same as when you started, or did you kind of start at one fee and then as you progressed moved, kind of increased it, or was there a shift?
Yeah, so again, going back to those initial first couple of months, I do what I could to get the listing really, because I just that's just me. And I want to be, I like to be busy. I don't like anxiety to set in when it gets a little bit quiet. It's taken me a couple of years to realize that December can be a little bit quiet. So I'm really looking forward to going into this December and not being anxious that it's a little bit slow. But I'm no good like that. So I like volume. I do like volume. That's just me. I like to be busy and like to know where the next load of money is going to come from, the next load of fees are going to come from. So I was quite happy with my fee structure, but certainly from at the offset, God, I probably should be saying this, but if it was on a main road, they wanted a board, I could get some great social content out of it. I would have done it for £1,000. I didn't, but that was my mindset really. I was just like, I think this is what I want, that board. I want that motivation. I want that social post. I want people to call me. So yeah, that's what I did really. But I think everyone's different. But in answer to your question, probably yeah, there has been a gradual rise.
I think that's fair to say, Alex. No, I think that's fair enough to say, in terms of getting the listing, and there are levels and the ways that you can show that confidence in the living room, and as your confidence grows over the time and being able to justify your fee, which I know that it has increased over that time, and but your service sort of stands for itself now, and that's one of the biggest things to get that name and that branding out there. So thank you for being honest about that point, because it is one of those that I think people struggle with, but it's just justifying that fee structure and understanding what your offering is, which I think you do very, very well.
Well, this is it, and if everyone's got a certain, no one's got an endless amount of money. So whatever you've got, whether you've got 3 months, enough to support yourself 3 months or 6 months or a year, whatever it may be, the way I looked at it was, if I get that listing right now and I sell that, that's another month in business, and that's the way I treated things initially. If I get 3,000 from that, well, that's another month in business. It's another month I'm surviving. So that's the way I looked at it, from a very kind of hand to mouth perspective in those early days.
That's fair. Any other questions, Shauna?
So no other questions for now, but Sean Newman has been watching and he has said, it's great to follow your journey and see your success. Thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you, Sean. I owe a lot to you.
That's very nice. Fantastic. Well, Alex, thank you so much for dedicating your time. I know that you're halfway through a house move, which is really exciting, and I wish you the best of luck with that.
Thank you.
We all know how it feels, and not just for ourselves, but for our sellers and buyers. But yeah, I want to say thank you very much. Keep going the way that you're going, and it's really, really great to see your success over this time frame. And I'm hoping that has inspired some other people with some of those tips and advice, especially around those first 3 to 6 months, because it's so important that phrase that you said, do what it takes to get those first few listings, because you will build that momentum. So it's been really inspiring, and thank you so much, Alex. And I guess, Shauna, for the rest of the guys watching back later on, but we do have another webinar due for the middle of December, which will be attended by myself and Jim Harris, but we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you so much. Good night.